Welcome to the August 4th Board of Selectmen meeting. This meeting is being broadcasted and recorded, And so we have at 6 o'clock, we have we're just calling to order at 6 o'clock. And then we do have, you wanted me to switch?
Yeah, at 6:05, the fire chief will make a presentation. But if the board wants to go to the licensing section, you'll see that there is a change of manager application for wine and malt retail. And Tara is here this evening in case you have any questions. This is an establishment that recently got a transfer of license from the previous owner and provided Glenn Warren Jr. as the manager, but he stated when they were talking to you during the license hearing that they would most likely be bringing in a new manager. That's Tara. This is something that is not, there's no public hearing here, it's a vote of the board. Tara, if you want to approach the microphone, the board may have questions for you with respect to your experience and your understanding of managing the alcohol.
Sure. Hello, I'll give a quick intro. My name is Tara Placharzik. I came on about 2 months ago to manage the general store. Since then, I've undergone ServSafe manager training, tips training, allergen awareness training. So all of those in line to open. Regarding retail as well, we're integrating our POS system with something called WeScan that requires IDs to be scanned for alcohol sales. So we're just making sure that we're, doing all we can to ensure legal sales. Happy to take any
Wonderful.
questions.
Any questions from the board?
You know, in all its application, maybe I missed it, I didn't see the address. I saw everybody else's address. Is it in here somewhere?
It should be on there, 91 Main Street.
I didn't see, maybe, I must have missed it.
Let's see.
I believe.
Yeah, it's right on the front,
Yeah.
Peter.
It's on the
Yeah.
front page.
Marshall
Okay.
Farm Store LLC, 91 Main Street.
Yep.
So this is where the
Oh, okay,
package
gotcha.
store was.
Yep, yeah,
They got
yeah,
the
yeah,
transfer, and now they're changing the manager.
Yeah, I knew where it was. I just
Yeah.
was, there was no address. I didn't see an address, but obviously it's there.
Okay, so is this your first store that you have managed or, store?
Yes. Yes, this is the first retail store that I'm managing. Prior to this, I was in operations for 8 years at a tech company in Cambridge, so not the same, but I have experience implementing, rules, regulations. At the business level, I worked at restaurants prior to that, so have experience in food and bev, and most importantly, operations, so that's really what I'm coming in.
Okay. At this point, I don't have any further questions. I do assume that you will get to know our police and fire chiefs so that you have resources.
Yep, absolutely.
Wonderful. Anybody else?
Yeah, is your name Nancy? Is it Nancy on the license and your?
No, Tara. It should be Tara. Nancy works in the,
She's the billing.
or Glenn, yeah, she supports.
Okay, I don't know, I saw the name,
Oaks
just
Creek
want to
Campus.
make sure.
Yeah, she's involved
I can't open the file
administratively.
right now, so,
Sure.
Confusing.
oh, wait, you have it.
Yeah, see. And this Nancy.
Oh,
was-
if Nancy's on for the bill, yeah, is she on there?
Okay,
Billing?
yeah, all right, I apologize.
Yep,
All
no
set.
problem. Okay. Okay,
All right.
great.
So do we need to make a motion to,
So you could entertain a motion for the board to vote to approve the change of manager as listed on the agenda.
So moved?
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 We'll send it into the ABCC next. Thank you.
Okay, so it's 6:04. Chief Hassel, would you like to come up and join us? Are we going to be presenting this behind us, behind me?
Good evening. All right, I'll try to keep up with you, Brendan.
All right, let me know.
All right, good evening. Thanks for the time this evening, and look forward to presenting high-level overview of what the next 5 years looks like. We're going to focus more on kind of that year one, year two, and then just try to give you, to the best of our ability, an understanding of what the next 3 to 4 years looks like. You can move forward. So we'll go through executive summary. Actually, that's a lie. We won't go through executive summary because I omitted it, but didn't omit it on the agenda page. We're going to look at the current model. We're going to look at a contrast between Essex and the region as far as budgets and call volume and everything else goes. We'll look at our challenges. We'll look at our proposed solutions, and then we'll kind of present you with some sort of conclusion. Perfect. So our current model, Essex Fire runs 2 engines, 1 ladder truck, 1 tender, 1 squad, 2 BLS ambulance, a primary and a backup, and 1 Marine unit. At the core of the department are approximately 40 dedicated responders. All responders are call members, meaning that they only get compensated for when they come in, right? So training, clerical, hazard mitigation, i.e. going to calls. We staff 2 8-hour shifts 7 days a week for members to pick up. These are not mandatory shifts. They are picked up by people as they can around primary roles and responsibilities. So there are times where we do really good with staffing, and then there are times where there could be no one at the station for a week. Good for the budget, not good for mental health. It's a challenge. Those shifts are there for a reason. We need help during the day when all our members are at work or some sort of primary role. So our equipment, we run 2 engines. Like I said, our engines are key in fire attack. So we have the first engine in is a primary fire attack. It'll start putting water on the fire. The next engine in is going to grab a hydrant if there's one available, and they will pump water from the hydrant to the primary engine so it doesn't run out of water. Depending on what engine is there, it's either 1,000 gallons that it has or 500 gallons. So seems like a lot of water until you start squirting it out at 250 gallons a minute, and then it goes really quick. So we need to make sure that we have that second engine in. We also have areas of town that are not covered from a hydrant standpoint. So we have a tender, which is a 2,250 gallon water shuttle with a pump. It allows us to bring water where we need it and then discharge that water to that primary attack pump and cycle through and go fill up at a hydrant and bring more water. So this is, even with all that water, it's a cycle through type situation. We do have 2 ambulances, like I mentioned. We have a primary, which is A1, and a backup. A large majority of our calls is medical in nature. So we'll not only staff the ambulances, but we'll staff an engine on a motor vehicle accident. So there's more of a demand on manpower for those types of situations. And then these ambulances are staffed with EMTs or at the BLS level, meaning that we have a contract with Beauport Ambulance Service for our ALS service. So cardiac issues or that higher level of care, we're going to have 2 ambulances that are going to show up to either manage airways or cardiac or medication administration. So it's that higher level of care. Very standard across the EMS world. So our membership, they are responsible for going to calls 24/7, 365. In order to be an EMT in the state of Massachusetts, you have about 140 hours of training hours. You have to pass a written and a practical exam administered by the state. For Fire 1-2 certification, which is our standard for allowing people to go into burning buildings and other hazardous situations, it's about 250 hours over a 6-month period, 4-month period. It's on the weekends and evenings. It's pretty demanding of time when you have a primary role and family. Outside of that, there are other certifications that they need to keep up throughout the year. EMS renews every 2 years, so there's an obligation there. So it's not just an easy thing to volunteer and show up and kind of be there. There's a lot of dedication. Again, I've said it multiple times, we're lucky that we have a lot of dedicated folks. But I think we're kind of at the end of that being viable for us. Outside of that, we have a fire prevention obligation, so any new buildings, any sale of real estate sale, there's a need for fire prevention to go in and sign off on smoke detector systems, fire prevention. There's a whole fire prevention piece, training in the schools, and all our restaurants require an annual inspection as well, which is tied to their liquor license. So there's a significant amount of work there. EMS coordinator is in charge of managing all the certifications for our EMTs and paramedics on staff. It's also a significant workload there. Scheduling of folks is also a role that are all filled by call members on a part-time as they can do it basis, as well as grants being sought after and funded. Thank you. So this is a regional overview of Essex versus other communities. I think size-wise, population-wise, we are on the smaller side. Square miles, we're not on the smaller side. Fire budget, we are the smallest budget. That is our fire and ambulance budget combined on an annual basis. The only other department that is 100% call like us is Rockport. Rockport used to run an ambulance as well. They've recently transitioned to a contracted provider, Beauport Ambulance. So that number of their budget could have changed one way or another. It's not always easy to find all this information, so I did the best I could. Outside of that, we are one of the few transporting BLS ambulance agencies between Wenham, ourselves, and then Manchester has a transporting ALS. So I think by and large value for what we're providing, we're right up there. Thanks, Brent. So some of our challenges. Essex Fire, like I mentioned, is one of 2 departments in the region that run an all-call model. We've requested manpower in the past, or additional full-time staff in the past. It was unsuccessful. So now we're kind of at this critical point where some of our legacy members are going to be aging out in the next 4 to 10 years. There's a mandatory requirement for retirement at age 65. So this generation that we have kind of in that gap is not the same as generations that we're bringing on. Their sense of community and dedication and kind of giving to the fire department is kind of different. So the modern generations don't necessarily have that same drive, which creates a problem from us on a staffing standpoint and a response standpoint. Again, our challenges are training, tactics, equipment maintenance, inspections. They all create a significant workload that demand full-time staff. Emergencies, unfortunately, don't wait for a time that's convenient. They happen when they happen. We have an obligation to provide a professional, effective, and timely response. So some of our bullet point challenges, we're playing catch up on staffing. The needs of the department have exceeded a part-time or call effort. We have a need, I would say an obligation, to be more proactive versus reactive when it comes to emergency preparedness. There's a liability. We've seen fires in the region that have claimed lives, that have claimed not only firefighter lives, but there was a tragedy down in Fall River without getting into details, we don't want to be the town that waited for that in order to start moving forward. EMS, again, extensive training. I will say on the EMS side, a fire call can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 days. An EMS call is pretty typically an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on what's going on. The reason this is brought up is because at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's less than ideal to get up for a medical call knowing that you're probably not going to be back to your house within the next 2 hours. It really throws a wrench in your next day plans as far as sleep goes. So it's a commitment, again. We have had instances, which we've discussed, about missed calls, meaning that we had a call for ambulance and no one showed up. It results in a missed call. We've seen this in neighboring communities as well. It's not unique to us, but it's not a great situation. We've kind of covered some of that stuff. Equipment and maintenance is a big deal. All of our medical and fire equipment has expiration dates on them. It's difficult to manage all that. We are implementing software, which will help with that. But again, it's a significant amount of work on an ongoing basis to make sure that we are ahead of that and getting forecasted numbers out so that folks can plan accordingly. And then lastly, regional involvement. There's Essex County Chiefs, there's the Regional Dispatch Center, which we're a part of. And these are all areas where, as chief or as the department, we have a driving say in where stuff's going, and we need to be involved to make sure that we're not getting left behind, we're not getting caught by surprise, and that we're advocating for what's good for the town of Essex. Thank you. So the goal of what we want to do is to drive responsible and impactful growth. This growth is needed to combat the competing priorities of the call workforce. This isn't an Essex-specific problem, but one that is impacting call and volunteer departments nationwide. That's one word. The solutions provided are designated to provide a fiscally responsible path forward while starting to address the needs of the department. So fall 2025, I would like to find a path forward to add a full-time fire prevention officer. We also have the elephant in the room, the 33-year-old tender. I would also like to put that on the agenda. The tender has been talked about in years past. Last year, we had a pretty significant incident, and it ended up costing somewhere in the $14,000 to $20,000 range. So we are speccing out new trucks at this time. So there's that. And then in the spring of 2026, we will be looking to add a second firefighter, or the first firefighter, I guess, in just some NFPA guidance on equipment replacement. They're the governing body for us. They recommend 15 years of service from a frontline piece, 20 to 25 years for a reserve piece. You can see that not only is our tender 33 years old, we have an engine that's 22 years old and another engine that's 17 years old. I only say this just to kind of allow you to have some visibility into the future and kind of what's coming. And I'm not back here in 5 years and you guys are like, what is going on? Ambulance is pretty self-explanatory. We replace our ambulances about every 5 years. The frontline ambulance goes back to the reserve piece, meaning that we keep the ambulance for 10 years. Ultimately, the frontline piece is never older than 5 years. It works out well for us. These are funded by the enterprise account. The enterprise account is funded by receivables from the insurance companies when we transport folks in the ambulance. So it's not a burden on the town, at least that piece. again, emergency preparedness. I think more now than ever, we've seen more coastal flooding. We've seen wildland fires this year. We'll talk about it. But it's been good. But these are things that we need to be ahead of and not behind. You can't just all of a sudden have an increase in some sort of emergency and not be prepared for it. We are kind of the Swiss Army knife of response, where we get called for everything, and we're expected to know how to deal with it, know how to mitigate it, and that's, we do a pretty good job of it. So the one thing I will touch on is as we look to bring on some full-time staff, one of the things that, there's a couple things that are a benefit of that we're not able to do right now. Mobile integrated health is something that the state has adopted. It is a program where we take a proactive measure to going out and visiting at-risk or elderly patients. It allows us to check vitals and do other baseline med compliance. There's a whole program that's outlined by the state. It is proven to be very successful, and it would be something great for us to implement in our day-to-day operation should we have the bandwidth.
And I'm sorry, what's the name of that program?
It's Mobile Integrated Health is the name of the program, or MIH. And then, yeah, perfect. So short term, again, Essex Fire established in 1824. We've proudly served the community for over 200 years. Though there's been plenty of progression over the year, it's now time to make the strategically impactful strides forward. Short term, we've invested in software. We're currently in the integration process. Adding the first, we're looking to add the first and second full-time position in department history, replacement of critical infrastructure, i.e., or apparatus, not infrastructure, and adding additional shifts to cover key timeframes. So it's actually a bullet point that shouldn't go overlooked, that adding additional shifts will help offset. So we run stipend shifts on the weekend, meaning you sleep at home, you commit to coming in for any and all emergencies, and you get a stipend for the night. What we're looking to do is change that at some point to actually have shifts on the overnight, so that you would sleep at the fire department, you would, get paid your hourly rate to be there and cover all calls. We run into issues in the summertime especially, but really weekends in general, where folks are taking off, and rightfully so, to go be with their families or have a vacation, and it really leaves the department short. So kind of having an insurance policy of having those shifts available for folks will go a long way. Again, next 4 years, we are looking at additional apparatus replacement needs. I think that my position should be a full-time position at some point within the next 5 years. I'm not advocating for a job for myself. I'm just saying that it needs to be a full-time position. We should be looking at a command vehicle at some point as well, and then additional shifts for call members to offset the full-time, or to complement the full-time members as well. And then year over year, there's probably going to be a need to have a change in wage and salary scale again to just reflect rank. So right now everyone makes the same, which is great. But just like any organization, there should be a tiered pay scale for officers who are taking on more responsibility, or whatever the case may be. So, and then one other equipment note would be, we do have an aging radio cache, and those are not free. They are pretty expensive. So when you look at 40 radios, it's going to be a cost. So just want to get that on everyone's radar as well. Outside of that, I'm happy to take any questions. I know I threw a lot of information at you, so if there's stuff you want to ask, by all means, I'm here for you.
So I'm guessing based on some of the numbers you had there that the average age is somewhere around 50 to 60 for most of the volunteer responders. And I'm thinking that maybe over the last 10, 20 years, or whenever that block first signed on, there was possibly less training required, less licensing required, and all that. And so you see maybe the younger people looking at that. You know, over the years, they insidiously took care of adding on the training. It was no big deal. You add one, then you add another, not a big. But coming in fresh, you're seeing a lot of, this is what I gotta do. You don't see that changing at all, do you? As to more younger folks wanting to come in and become volunteer firefighters with all the requirements that there are now?
We've brought on 4 or so people within the last few months. They are the younger side. There is an eagerness with these folks to get through some of that training. I think that you may find folks who are going to want to go through that training, but there's an end goal for them, which is a full-time job, and that is not necessarily going to be with Essex, right? So even if we have 2 jobs to offer, it's,
Yeah.
you know, they're going to end up traditionally in a call department. You bring people on, you train them, we pay for their training, and then it's a stepping stone to a full-time career somewhere.
Yeah.
We have had some luck with different staffing models, from hiring folks who are full-time firefighters in other areas. They can certainly fill a niche for us from a staffing standpoint in shifts, but you're not getting someone who's necessarily living in town. So now when you have that callback or that need for a response, you have these folks who are great when they're there, but when they're not there, they're not coming back either.
Yeah.
So it's kind of balancing that with some of the younger folks who are getting on. I guess to answer your question direct, it is possible to get people to go through all this training, and that's what we'll continue to do. Just, I think the other side of it is we don't know how long we're going to have them for, and the expectation is probably 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, and the reason I ask the questions is that, you know, I think to show that this situation is not an anomaly, but this is a trend, and this is how things are going. So your plan is not jumping the gun, it's thought out and direct, and something that really is the future. And we've known this is going to come at some point.
Sure.
You know, and we are now at that tipping point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I, glad to be the messenger, I guess. But it's been, you know, I think all departments out there, if you look at some of our folks in the region, Raleigh just added 8 people, and they're going to a 24-hour model, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
That's hopefully what we can avoid. And I think, you know, these few steps, I think one of the big things that we want to do is, as we progress with staffing changes, equipment changes, really have a focus on reassessing where that got us and kind of how successful that ad was, so that we can kind of look again at the future. That's why I don't put too much stock in what's out, you know, past a couple of years. It's really just, let's get people in, let's see how it goes, and then kind of continue to go from there. If the town's needs change, if the department's needs change, whatever the case may be, we can continue to be fiscally responsible and make sure that we're providing our end of the bargain from a response standpoint.
Thank you.
Annie?
I have a bunch of questions, but we only have a minute left. So can I just throw them out and we can talk about them at a future date?
Got a very small retention, so
So a tender equals a tanker.
yes.
Contracts, I'm just interested in compensation based on certifications. We can talk about that later. New construction, do you do inspections of that?
Yep.
You do. And then Is there any risk to the ambulance reimbursement, given some of the pending changes to insurance that might be coming up? And I guess, have we done any sort of planning, risk planning on that? And you don't have to answer that now, just a question that came up. And then, do you have any sort of an internal document? I'm sure, it's not public, but kind of that charts what the retirements are and what the staffing will be over the next 10 years, knowing what retirements might happen. And again, I don't need to see it. I just wondered, do you have some sort of a...
We don't necessarily have a formalized spreadsheet. I think it's a great idea. It's pretty easy to put together. Actually, with our new software, we'll have the ability to probably just run a report and get that information right out of there. So.
Yeah, and then just another data point I'd like to see is just the fiscal year 24 and 25, any missed calls and, any sort of notation you can provide about why that happened. So that's just stuff I'd love to follow up with you on.
Sure, and I can answer some of those real quick. I know we're up against time here, but from an insurance standpoint, yeah, I think it's absolutely a concern.
Okay.
It's kind of a holding pattern, just like everything else right now. With it goes one way, then it goes another way. So TBD. But if people are going to be losing their insurance, yeah, it's going to be a problem for us.
Okay.
We don't balance bill as a practice, so whatever we collect from insurance is what we collect.
Yes.
They're taxpayers, so we're not going to go after folks traditionally. So that would be potentially a problem.
Thank you.
So first of all, this document that you presented, could we have a copy of that?
You have it.
Wonderful. A couple of questions I did have was regarding the tender. I know last year you got well used and needed help. We go out and do these. I know mutual aid is mutual aid, but it feels like if we're going out spending 48 hours in a row and not getting compensation, and not every department has a tender. Is that something that the state is looking at? Have you heard anything?
I think it was brought up quite a bit after the Middleton fire, or the series of fires last summer. I don't know that it got traction. The challenge is the state's going to be looking for FEMA dollars, and though this was a big deal for Massachusetts, when you put it up against an Arizona or California fire, the threshold for meeting FEMA relief on that is in the millions, and we were probably, maybe 100,000. So it was not us personally, but just collectively. So the cost is just, we're probably not going to be meeting those thresholds, hopefully anytime soon. So short answer would be, I don't see a path forward on that unless there's, some sort of conversation around a joint fund to kind of fund some of these things. Mutual aid typically works through reciprocity, right? So it kind of comes out in the wash. Yes, we go out, but we cannot do what we do, especially with staffing. We rely on folks just to put it in perspective. If we have what's considered a first alarm structure fire or reported structure fire, Manchester's coming automatically, Ipswich is coming, Hamilton's coming. So we have a lot of resources coming immediately, which is really comforting, and we can always turn them back, but it's systems like that that make this successful.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you is regarding, I know that you've been looking at grants. Have you found anything for the tender?
So we have submitted pretty diligently over the last, unknown to me, but I would say pretty consistently for the last probably 5 years. We have submitted again this year. The grants, much like Medicaid, is not looking great right now. There is, there's challenges with that. I don't anticipate that going through, though we have applied for it. It's such a small pool of money that gets broken down, and then it gets broken down again to just equipment allocation. So it's a big pot of money up here that looks great, and then you get it down here, and it's not the same. So.
And then one last thing I did have is, I thought I had heard on my many hours of watching TV that it's not even just call firefighters, it's full-time firefighters that are also a problem of retaining and getting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think, emergency services in general, police, fire, EMS has been struggling for years. But yeah, fire as well is definitely struggling. If you talk to area chiefs, they struggle with retention and folks who really, again, want to do the job and don't just look at it as a pension and a place to sit on a couch. So,
Okay,
awesome.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am gonna. Lindsay? Then Lindsay. Okay. Our next appointment is the FinCom to discuss overall budget perspectives and planning for the past, present, and future operating and capital budgets. Don't all of you get up at once.
This is a party. I'd like to call to order the Essex Finance Committee. So we're here at your invitation. So I am happy to answer your questions. The Finance Committee had a prep meeting the other day, and we reviewed many topics, but I think, are most interested to see what your questions were for the Finance Committee.
Either of you?
Do we have the list of stabilization and reserve funds that you guys were talking about?
They're not updated yet. Michaela's in the process of updating them for FY25 and the appropriations that happened at annual town meeting, so we'll have them shortly.
Okay. So I guess I'm interested in what your top priorities are for the year in terms of operational and capital.
So currently, as you know, we have liaisons that work with each department. The change in the Finance Committee over the last couple of years has been that we work with departments throughout the year instead of just once before budget season. We have been working closely with the Fire and Ambulance Department, with Christian, and with Tom Shamshak, Chief Shamshak, regarding the police. I feel that the Fire Department, as Christian just previewed for you, will be looking to have some significant needs that the Finance Committee will work through with him to develop a 5-year plan. There are, the Finance Committee makes decisions based on numbers, and we haven't fully vetted all of the numbers as Christian's just developing the plan, and it hasn't been brought to the Finance Committee as a whole to discuss. The tanker is clearly an issue. That's a large capital need. We have a new harbor master moved under the police. There have been, there's been an ongoing inventory of assets and deficiencies. And as you know, we had to replace Marine 2 this year as it was in disrepair, and luckily we received a donation for the boat and the engine, boat and the trailer, and we purchased the engine. Unfortunately, we are looking at a similar situation with Marine 1, but that's being assessed at this time. So that will be top of the list. The DPW superintendent is retiring this year, and I think we will learn a lot more about what's going on in the DPW when we have a new superintendent. There's a water infrastructure needs over the next 5 or so years. There are very, very broad numbers on that. So broad that I'm not even going to talk about those numbers because they're just not buttoned down at all. We do, though, know that we've got a secondary sewer treatment coming for $6 million, and there is a reserve account with about $2 million of the sewer betterment holders' interest that they paid when they took their 20-year loans. So that has built up over time. The town had opportunities to have zero interest loans instead of the 2% loans. Some of the loans were forgiven. So this account has built up to approximately $2 million. That $2 million is an opportunity to offset this $6 million cost to our sewer betterment holders. So that will be under discussion on what happens with that money. As we all know, there's a dirt pile sitting at the DPW, which is of great concern to everybody. I guess it hasn't come out of the blue, but it was never addressed as an issue from the current DPW superintendent until we started discussing the fuel depot. So that's being evaluated and will most likely land on a town meeting floor. I think our biggest concern as far as increasing in the budget would be, of course, the school budget. Continues to escalate, and we are compiling a list of information that we would like back from the superintendent. She invited us to get to her our questions before our next numbers crunching meeting regarding the RFI that she returned to us. So I think we talk a lot about numbers, right? The 1,575 students and 200 staff members, and 10 years ago, and 1,190 students and 200 staff members today. We talk a lot about how our 2.5% levy limit is more than eaten up by the school increase, and that's driving our overrides. And I think in the past, it has also overridden some of the town's needs that we put on the back burner, didn't increase our town's budgets by 2.5%. Sometimes it was level funded. We squeezed our town to make our school district work. So we know that that continues to be an ongoing issue. Health insurance is an ongoing issue for both the school district and the town. And of course, Essex Elementary is forefront on all of our minds regarding renovation or a rebuild of that asset. It's the last building since we regionalized 25 years ago, and we are prepared to entertain that project. In fact, look forward to it because it is the last pillar of regionalization in the original agreement. The debt schedule continues to give us some room, and we're hoping that the timing of Essex Elementary School will be such that we have not a huge spike in debt, and it'll, again, things are rolling off. The town hall rolled off, and the town sewer rolled off. We are gaining room with the high school debt. We're don't really have a lot of room with the Manchester Memorial debt. But again, we have known that this is on the horizon, and it's on the forefront of our minds. I'm sure there are things that I've missed. So if there's any of our
I have a
FinCom
specific
members.
question about, so the override was 49% for the town, 51% for the school. And I know that that addressed some of the public safety needs. And I'm assuming that there are other adjustments for the budgets that need to be addressed in the town hall or possibly the rest of public safety. So how is that being accounted for? And how are we paying for the ones that we just did?
So we'll be working with the department managers, and they will bring forward recommendations on if they need a salary schedule adjustment, and we'll work with them on the numbers. It is also important to note that we have been doing an overview of town departments and looking for either consolidations, not so much of downsizing, but to create, perhaps a full-time position out of four part-time positions, because there would be a positive ROI if we did that in some cases. If you look at the building department and you look at the assessors, you look at the Board of Health, when you start to look at permitting and bringing on new buildings, just like Christian was talking about, the fire department has to inspect new builds before they can get a building permit. That equals new growth for our town. But if we only had, and Concom would be underneath that, if you only have access to some of these employees for six or 8 hours a week in terms of building inspector, or up to 19 hours for Concom and ZBA, it's hard to move projects along in a timely manner that would lead to new growth for the town. New growth equals levy limit for us, and we certainly need some levy capacity. The one thing that I didn't talk about was OPEB. We are fully funded. We need to be at $4.3 million. We're at $3.1 million. If we continue with $250,000 or so contribution, we're within 3 to 4 years tops, if the market stays strong, of striking distance between being fully funded and not fully funded. What does that mean to us? It means that we're paying out of our operating budget about $200,000 a year for retiree health insurance. We're additionally chewing up free cash to contribute to OPEB. When you fully fund OPEB, hopefully, if your staffing and retirement levels are stable and the market stays at a decent pace, you will be able to free up the use of free cash, but you also free up $200,000 worth of levy capacity, because you will no longer be paying retired employees' health insurance out of your operating budget. And instead, the OPEB trust will be paying for that cost. So that helps immensely for levy capacity. So we're looking for opportunities, different ways to fund OPEB outside of the free cash, and how we fund other capital projects along the way. We are working with the town accountant to go through every stabilization account. We're looking at every past appropriation at town meetings to make sure that the balances in all of these accounts are where they need to be. So much like the purchase of the Glocks, we used repurposed appropriations that were approved for police needs, and the $18,500 we needed to upgrade the weapons ended up costing the town, I think, $126 in additional funds that were not appropriated. So we'll be looking at that as well. Ben? Please.
Thank you. Ben Buttrick. With Jody, I'm one of the liaisons to the district, and there's just a couple of things that I wanted to mention. After we met last week at the Finance Committee, I just went and revisited the latest iteration that we had of the multi-year model that was done this spring by the district. And what this model does is it assumes level headcount at the school, and it factors in the known obligations to the school, so contractual obligations. And so I thought this was a good opportunity to just manage expectations here, that for fiscal year 27, so thinking ahead to the budget planning for the next fiscal year, the model results in an 8.3% increase in assessment to the towns. That's both towns. So that doesn't factor in the apportionment and what it would be for each of the towns. If you then take it out to the following year, fiscal '28, it's 5.9%, and then it goes down to 5.3% for fiscal '29 and beyond. That's because based on the teacher's contract, we know there's a 4.5% increase for next year's budget. Again, assuming level headcount. The health insurance is the big wild card. That's baked in at 10%. There's also an assumption of discontinuing the OPED funding offset. Also discontinuing the use of reserves. There was $600,000 in addition to the Essex override that was used to shore up the budget for the current fiscal year. There's also a 7% assumption for increase in transportation on regular, 7% increase in the transportation cost for regular education. Another bit of an unknown because that's going out to bid for fiscal '27. So, there's, based on everything that is known at the time of the modeling, that's where it comes out. So the key point here is that it's going to be a funding challenge for both towns next year, all things being equal, based on what we know. At 8.3%, as Jody mentioned, it's half of the town's budget. So, you can do the math. So I thought it would be helpful to look at some data around the ability for us to fund this. I mean, we know we would have to do it through an override. So I was looking at just the database from the Division of Local Services at Massachusetts, so you can do a comparison across towns. And I thought it would be interesting to look at relative wealth, and I'm saying of Essex and Manchester relative to the rest of the state, willingness, i.e. individual taxpayers' burden, and what might be an indicator of willingness to be able to do another override, or if we're doing multiple overrides, and then also the financial capacity of the town. We talked a little bit about that at the Finance Committee meeting last week. I mean, the town is a AA plus bond rating, so in terms of financing other things that are capital items, and for the building of Essex Elementary, actually that would be on the district, it wouldn't be on the town, but the town is pretty healthy in terms of its ability to finance. I mean, if you overlay the district with the town's needs, right, we know we're going to have to be relying on some degree of financing going forward. And the town is pretty healthy relative to other towns in terms of where we fall in terms of debt service as a percentage of total budget. We're pretty close to the average in the state. So that bodes well. The other thing that I thought was interesting is looking at the ratio of the per capita tax bill of our residents relative to the per capita income, which comes from the Department of Revenue, so they're two different data sources. This ratio is 14% for Essex. The state average is 13.9. So we're not an outlier, I guess is the key point there. We're right near the middle in terms of our tax burden relative to income of residents. The other thing is looking at wealth. This is interesting. If you exclude the Outer Cape, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket, Manchester by the Sea ranks 7th out of 334 municipalities, or the top 2% in terms of per capita EQV, or real estate valuation. Essex is still pretty wealthy, ranking 55 out of 334, which puts us in the top 16%. So if you look at different indicators of wealth, it's pretty positive for Essex. So the reason why I'm saying all of this is because you have to say, well, what is our ability as a town to successfully pass another override? And obviously, everybody has individual stories and sentiments, but the measures seem fair in terms of our ability to do that. Then of course, the question is, what can we do? And that's what Jody was, talking about in terms of the various levers we have for the town to think creatively about how do we free up our operating budget capacity, and also how do we sequence these. So we have to kind of take this multi-year model and work with the district to refine it, lay it over the town's model, and figure out how we sequence and stage everything in concept. So I guess that's it. And you mentioned OPEB, so that's questions.
And I just want to caution using those state averages. There's a lot of small communities west of Worcester, like Mount Washington, Florida, Coleraine, places like that nobody's ever heard of, that are way smaller than Essex, and they're kind of skewing that average a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. My question was, has the Finance Committee seen the draft potential items for a fall town meeting and beyond yet? No.
We haven't seen that as a committee. That'll be coming
Okay.
up in our next budget
Okay.
process.
I would have asked if there were any definite do's and definite don'ts on that list, including out to the long-range potential items, not just the fall, but tier 2 and tier 3 and beyond, so.
So last year, Brenda and I had a conversation about the tiered, Board of Selectmen's tiered town meeting list, and it's important that we start putting some hard numbers on some of those projects, and I know that's a little bit difficult, but it's going to be an important tool in our planning for coming up with a new five-year capital plan, so
Right.
that will be important. One of the things we didn't mention, and I also think it skews things, is our aging population. So we're trending toward 40% of our population now who will be 60 or over. And that also impacts our fire department because 5 of those, regular responders will be turning 65 and they have to legally retire, so you lose them. So we're getting squeezed
Yeah.
on both ends. And as we saw with the UMass Boston report, with that aging population, there'll be more needs for the senior community in town that will be one of those departments that we take a hard look at for next year and the next 5 years.
Yeah, and as you know, we'll be recommending various articles, and some of them will have money attached, and so, the sooner you can get us some of your thoughts, the committee's thoughts, the better it is for us to be able to choose which ones we want to recommend go into article.
And I think budgeting this year will become much easier for us, although we won't have the tool in the fall, which I'd prefer to have the tool, but the budgeting software that Michaela, Brendan, and I previewed and recommend for fall town meeting will really help in the budgeting process. Our tool has been spreadsheets. Not the greatest tool. It's worked for the town, but I think we're at that point where we need better tools to help manage the town.
Thanks.
Jody, I did want to just ask, so you had mentioned that each of the FinCom members have a department that they cover. Was that recently done, or has it always been that way?
I can't speak to, has it always been that way? When I joined the Finance Committee, we were assigned, I was assigned a department to go out and talk to a week before the budget was due. I think the change here is that we're working throughout the year, and we're talking to department heads as often as they want to talk and having collaborative conversations, which I think has been an incredible help in planning. And I think especially with new department heads, I think it's helped us to understand their needs, and we're not hearing things at the 11th hour.
Okay. I know that we have more meetings to come. You didn't mention the the bill, this 407 bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the email from Chip Elitzer from Great Barrington, I believe. So we did have a discussion at the Finance Committee meeting. There was some misunderstanding by a couple members that we were supporting his proposed formula. He's truly looking for support to move the bill to a study at the state level, and the Finance Committee voted and unanimously agreed that we would support the bill being moved to a study. 7 o'clock. You're fine. It's just the 7 o'clock test.
So now BZ did get an email from, was it Bruce Tarr's office?
Legislative aide to Senator Bruce Tarr indicated that there's certainly not a downside to supporting it, but in its current form, the thought is that it is not very likely going to get traction in the state legislature.
I think the feeling, though, is that with regional school districts, every regional school has their own agreement, and that I think that all regional schools would benefit in having the state take a look at how regional schools are funded, and having a uniform formula may be helpful, but that's not something that we would be able to study. And the way our agreement works, you know, there's a process for bringing up any changes to your regional agreement.
Okay.
Can I speak to that? You know, what the conversation I heard was that the board or this finance committee was not in support of a state mandate, but they did support the study only about regionalization, apportionment, best practices, that the state would give us some data about that. So I want to be sure that it
We
was
supported
not,
the study.
yes, but not a mandate from
We
the
did not support a mandate because that's not what he was asking for. He was asking for support for the study.
Yes, but I just want to be clear in the response that if we decide to send a response to him.
Right, which is a separate agenda item for you
Yep.
tonight.
Okay.
Okay. I appreciate all you do. I see you at multiple meetings, so thank you. Any last comments?
I want to thank all the Finance Committee members. They're a hardworking group. They do a lot of work outside of regular Finance Committee meetings, and I think they've taken some of the work to a higher level, and I think we've gotten a lot of appreciation from department heads and working collaboratively. It's been a game changer, I think, for a lot of departments.
Wonderful.
So I
Thank you.
thank everyone for working with us.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda, the next meeting was for 7 o'clock. Jay Tetzlotz, regarding 2 items. He has asked to remove them or table them.
In table indefinitely, he's no longer interested in discussing them with the selectmen.
Okay. So at this point, I am going to switch over to a license for Lindsay Bergeron. Greenbelt, that's Lindsay. And, sorry.
There's a ratification from last meeting.
Okay, so first this is the one-day entertainment license to ratify the board's action taken on July 21st, 2025 regarding a one-day entertainment license for Lindsay Bergeron, Rivers Bend Patio Area, 35 Dodge Street, for use on Saturday, August 2nd, between the hours of 5 and 6, to include solo guitarist with small amplification and singer for a portion of the songs.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I should probably abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
You're just
It's-
ratifying
You're
something.
just ratifying something that is effective, so it's okay.
All right. Aye.
Okay, so then the next item, for Lindsay Bergeron, Rivers Bend Patio and Tent Area, 35 Dodge Street, for use on Saturday, September 13th, 2025, between the hours of 5:30 and 6:30, amplified guitarist on a patio, and 6:30 to 8 p.m., amplified saxophonist and keyboardist dinner, music under the tent.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Didn't we already do this?
This is her September 13th.
Different
This
date.
is- She didn't have the license.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Regarding the name change,
Yes.
do you have any questions for us about that, or?
No, actually, I've been in contact with my assigned investigator. And Brendan, actually, I'll be reaching out to you because she has given me instructions about fixing things and then having you fix some things on your end and then resubmitting for reconsideration.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Moving back to the town administrator's report.
Numerous items tonight on the report with respect to the Army Corps of Engineers Essex River dredging project. We did have the post-dredging meeting with representatives of the Army Corps of Engineers, with Senator Tarr in person, and with representatives of every other federal and state legislative office that represent Essex. At this point in time, we know a few things. First of all, we know that the river will not, if there's going to be a return of the dredging contractor, it will not be over this coming winter. It'll be the season after that. The Corps explained that the reason for the contractor having removed so much material, double actually the material than what was specified in the plans, is that they feel that the pre-dredge survey work, the bathymetry that was done in 2021 and 2023. And then they based a plan on it, but storms that came in the intervening time period probably shifted the sediment around quite a bit and brought quite a bit of new, especially sandy sediment, into the river. And of course, the dredging didn't occur until late '24, early '25. That's how they're saying the project had limited success, because there was a very different bathymetric condition in the river by the time the contractor got there. At this point in time, there's a recommendation of the Corps for the town to review the worst choke points in the river, mark that up so that hopefully when a contractor comes back, they can concentrate on those areas. Even though there were numerous areas that didn't make it down to the 3.7 feet of draft at the mean low water, some of those areas they only missed by an inch or two. It's the areas they missed by a foot or two that are going to be very, very important. The group that met, that same group, is going to meet again after Labor Day so that the Corps can look internally to determine what the funding possibilities are in the timeline. And that's the update on that. I don't know if the board has questions on that.
Annie?
Yeah, I just wondered, and I apologize for not seeing this or noting it. Are there any business owners, were any of the business owners at the table or no?
The Corps specifically requested that for the time being, it stay at legislative representatives and municipal representatives. Same for the next meeting. They're looking for what they call a stakeholder meeting after that,
Okay,
because they just don't have enough information.
So as far as the town, does that mean you and Peter would be the ones doing that? Like, who determines what the worst choke points are? If you're not having the
The
business.
harbor master and his deputy already went out
and did
at a
that
minus tide and collected that information,
Wonderful.
as well as anecdotal information from the boating public.
And then as far as knowing the condition of the sand that we have in our river, is there a different approach that they take whether it's the equipment that they use or something. I
No,
don't-
they mentioned that it would be the same equipment, the same methodology, much tighter survey, much closer to actual dredging. The problem is each survey costs about 65 grand to run.
And they did say that they may not look at the very mouth of the river because that switches around on a daily basis at times, but certainly very frequently, so they might not include that in part of the dredge project, so that would save some costs right there.
I have a dumb question. Is it possible to not even do the study and just deal with it in the moment, or, do you know what I mean? They have the equipment on the barge, right? So if
The
this-
issue is, it's all based on bid quantities.
Okay, so you're gonna
And
have,
so they have to allow everyone to look at a known set of numbers and give their price on it.
I get it, sorry.
Yeah. Next, we have what was mentioned by the chair of the Finance Committee. We've looked at budgeting software. The software that we're interested in is known as ClearGov, and it does seem to offer a lot of advantages over what we have now. You know, our system has always been a hodgepodge of spreadsheets, and trying to get all that tied together accurately is becoming increasingly difficult. Another great advantage of this software will be that we have multiple users that can go in and look at the budgeting in real time. You could have finance committee people reviewing it, you could have department heads commenting back on that, and this software will capture all of the comments along the way and all of the responses so that we can understand the history of any given issue or item in the budget. There'll be constant visibility into the budget, and another great feature is, although our department heads and finance committee members don't have visibility into the official accounting program, this software can be updated after each warrant is processed so that the amounts that were in the budget are reconciled, and they can start to see a much better planning tool as they go through the fiscal year. Do you have any specific questions about the software?
I do. Do you have role-based access? So some people have.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, we asked that.
And can you, not for today, tell us who will have what access?
Yes, we'll definitely be able to do that if we move forward as we build out the program.
Perfect, thank you.
I had that same question, but also I did want to ask you, is this to do all operating and personnel and building type of budgets, or, you know?
No, we're not purchasing a capital module. That would be significantly more. It is the operating budget.
And the only reason I asked about personnel is because it had mentioned that you could track people's time or payroll.
No, it's not. It's not that.
Okay.
So we did have, somewhere in here, I have a copy of it.
I have this right here.
I have it. I'm recommending that the board enter into this contract. The wonderful feature about it is they will prepare the system and get it up and running before we even have to pay for it at their risk. And this contract says that it is subject to appropriation by the town meeting. That will actually allow us, if we do get the vote at town meeting, to use the system this budget season.
So is the motion you're going to ask for a motion to put this on the town meeting warrant? Is that what we're?
No, because you can sign this contract, since it's contingent on that, it's not tied to putting it on the warrant.
Okay,
We're going to recommend that separately, yes.
okay.
But this, you have no risk here, because if you didn't even put it on the warrant, I mean, we're acting in good faith to try and do that, they're taking all the risk.
Okay.
So you're looking for a motion to sign the contract for ClearGov
Yes.
for a budgeting software for the operating system?
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
bear with me, I'm going to do minutes here. Next, I have the item Maya Risk Management Grant. Every year, our insurer offers to all of its insureds this grant program of up to $10,000 to work to improve safety problems or risk problems in each community. It is a competitive grant program, but we've done very well getting the maximum every year for as long as I can remember. This year, the real feature is fall protection. Now, normally this is talking about crews that go up on rooftops, might fall through a skylight or off the edge of a building, and they've had claims, unfortunately, relative to that. We don't do a lot of that. We don't do any of that. But we do have a pier out at the town landing with a very high drop off. And I've already brought to our loss control representative that risk, and he said that it looked like it would fare well in the grant program. We don't have his final answer yet, but my recommendation to the board is to support an application for railings on the fixed part of the town pier, which goes from the land to the gangway. The chairman could sign off on the grant application if we're told that it is eligible, and then after the harbor master and the deputy harbor master develop a list of what's needed, we would purchase the railings, which tend to be expensive because they're steel. We would purchase the railings, and then we would have our own working forces install them.
I'm sorry, so do you want me to make an,
It would be for the chairman to be able to sign the Maya Risk Management Grant with the featured topic being railings at the town pier.
So moved.
Second, sorry.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Next, the board went out to review the parking configuration at the town landing, did a site visit just to understand the lay of the land. This is a chance now for the board to discuss what you saw and determine if you want to move forward with a recommendation that was made by a resident for expanding the parking in that area.
So this was on the
Last Monday.
last Monday. I don't remember what day it was. I meant to pick that up. Do either of you have any comments before I spew my comments?
Sure, it's not spewing, but, George, we did look at the suggestions that you had made, and, we looked at, to the left, if you look at all the angled parking, to the left, there was one kind of hashed, is it called a hashed out something?
Yeah.
And that was very tight, and they actually are using that space for harbor master.
The lower one, the lower hatch one. There's another,
Yeah.
By the shed.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then there was another one across the way that was a potential that you had identified, but there was also an allocated, it's not necessarily marked, but it just didn't look like, I really appreciate your suggestions. I think they were a valuable opportunity for us to go and look at the landing, but it just didn't look like we could really squeeze safely out any further spaces there. I think that's a pretty accurate thing, but it also gave us an opportunity to look at some of the other issues that were there at the landing, so I really appreciate the fact that you brought it up, but I just didn't look from our
Yeah, and we
point.
were actually there when two boats came in to go into, so when they come in and they do their quick turnaround and then they back down to the ramp, we saw that adding spaces, the only place I could see adding it is, for myself, was over in the grassy area, moving that. But at the same time, then that takes away from kayakers or smaller boats being able to get in and not have a place to leave their kayak while they have to go move their car over to the parking lot. So it's very difficult. I couldn't see where we could even add 2 spaces, but even if we add 2 spaces, if you're the third to the last one to show up, you still don't have a space. And I know it's difficult during the summertime because boaters go out, at mid-tide, and you're going out at low tide, it's hard. The spaces are usually taken. So I think at this point, I'm not recommending making any changes to the parking lot. I will ask the others.
I was not at the site visit, but I did speak with Brendan about it, and I agree with the assessment. I went back and looked at what my suggestion was and see that it isn't really, I mean, if you really wanted to squeeze something in there, you might be able to, but there's too many other confounding factors. I have a question though, and maybe this was brought up at the site visit. Where does the town property and the shipbuilding museum begin? Because people pull in there to back around, and I think that's on private property. Is that not
I
correct?
think that's correct. I mean, I can get the board an aerial to show you that. I don't have it handy right now.
Yeah, but
I can do that.
it is being used, private property is being used.
Yeah, because we watched a couple of the clammers go out, and would they come in the second parking, and they do a quick, and of course, if somebody has a little bit bigger boat, they probably can't do that.
No,
So
that's right.
that's why, and I don't think, I'm not a boater, but I've been down there lots of times to watch. The boats do go into, pull in, and then back out of the shipbuilding area.
Now, there were other things that also came up so the board's taking no action on that?
No action.
Okay. There were other things that came up during the site visit that needed to be added to an agenda so the board could discuss. One thing is, and this was brought up in the residents' letter to the board, there's a dumpster for the Shipyard Tavern that I think over time has steadily been moving back onto what is town property. I brought up to the board that, and this is actually later on the agenda tonight, that the Village Restaurant, when it was the Village, which is now the James Pub, also had a situation where there was town property involved, and part of their parking lot is actually on town property. At that location, the town also has a need, which is to get people to and from the street to the stairway down to the town municipal parking lot. And so using that model, it could be possible for the town to license the dumpster, a small portion of it being on town property, for a couple of possible benefits in return. One would be, and I have heard from the owner of the restaurant, that the Harbor Master Department could use that dumpster for incidental trash, and he's already said he's interested in that. And another could be to feature the fact that there is a portion of something that a previous restaurant owner did under his Chapter 91 license, which is some benches and kind of an improved area that overlooks the river. We could put in the license as well that the restaurant owner should feature access to that and make sure people understand that it is available as a public resource. So if the board is in agreement with that, I could bring back at a future meeting a license that rolled those topics in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and then there's other stuff, so hold on one sec.
I think it's huge that the harbor master will be able to use that dumpster and not leave it piled by the building.
Also, the shellfish warden, potentially.
Yeah, we can do that too.
The big, whatever those things are.
Buoys?
The fluted, yeah, the broken floating.
Broken.
Those can just go to the dump, correct?
Right, yeah, we're talking about incidental trash. In addition now, if we flip to,
Point that should be written what can go in.
yeah,
On
we'll
that
come up with
license.
some kind of wording.
Things that are smaller than the dumpster itself.
If you go to page 2, under other business, there are other topics that came up. One was the town pier, and we've already talked about that in relation to the grant. I can tell you that the harbor master will be coming forward with a plan for the future to revamp that pier because it's really on its last legs. But right now, we're at least trying to take what we have and make it safer by putting in the railings. There was a discussion of potential trimming of trees. There was, we noticed that some of the trees are a little bit overgrown. Is that something that you want to happen? I think the DPW could handle it.
I think to bring it up higher so that you can see.
You would actually see those benches that are.
You could see those benches, right.
Overlooking the harbor, yeah. that'd
So
be
the
great.
tree right by the shed there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's two. I think there's one there and then there's another one.
Yeah,
So I'll talk to, if the board's okay with that, I'll have the DPW look at it.
thank you.
There was one sign there that was a holdover from the time that the parking area was set up differently. That has been removed.
Oh, great.
And then there's also trash disposal that we talked about working into the license. Was there anything else?
What's the time frame on the town pier?
We think that we're probably going to get a proposal, if not for fall town meeting, for the spring. Because they'll have to look at, you know, if they're going to replace it outright, what are we talking about? What are the materials? What are the costs?
Right.
Et cetera.
I know that Andrew was going to look to see if there was a temporary type of solution, especially near the end, when you go from
To the parking lot,
no, when you do the ramp onto the slanted.
gangway onto the float?
Yeah, I thought he was going to try and see if he could do something prior.
Yeah,
You might wanna-
to the fixed portion. And that, right now, we're just talking about railings as a temporary solution
Correct.
for safety.
Right.
So the next is the street excavation material project scope. I was working with Weston and Sampson engineers, and just today, we received their estimate for what it would take to adequately look at that project. Actually, received it Friday, I think. Looked at it in more detail today. The cost to sample and do laboratory analysis to understand what we have is around $12,000, $11,900. After that, there would be potentially the selection of a facility and the licensed site professional opinion letter that would be necessary to tell that facility that what we have coming is within their bounds. But the caveat there is a potential, Bill's here with us tonight from the Finance Committee, there's potential that this material could be reused on site. The engineers that I've talked with to date, including some back and forth that we had even today, are saying that it's right on the cusp of being able to be in that category. What we would do is, and we're not talking about a contract now because we have to go to the fall town meeting to get this money. What we would do is, before a contract is written, probably modify it a little bit to say what would happen if the sampling brought it back at a level that was low enough to reuse on site. We would pivot, and then the design would go in that direction, as opposed to a project design that would be trucking and disposal. All told, though, we're talking about $40,000 just for the engineering. That would include a cost estimate once they have a really good handle on what is there. There would be a cost estimate made prior to the annual town meeting, so you would actually have the cost to truck and dispose. This is just the engineering.
Is it likely the levels will be below what?
I don't think so based on what I've read, but everyone agrees that we need to get, because we don't even have good information on where each one of those samples came from within the pile.
Right.
It's great background information, but it really is going to have to be done in a much more systematic way.
Right.
So there's a possibility it could go either way, but either way, it's still going to cost you 40 grand in engineering to design and then eventually oversee what to do.
So,
But what's the 12 for?
Just for the sampling and
testing.
So do we say 12 first and then?
Yes, and so what would happen is you go to town meeting and you would decide how far through the, I think you would want to put the bid preparation, the bid support and construction administration on with the number for construction. So we would probably only get through the 12,000 and the 2,700, and then technical specification and bid document prep, that could be part of the construction project.
Okay.
That way you don't spend that money up front and the town meeting says, we don't want to do this.
Yeah. Okay.
But this gives you at least the breakdown of the different components of engineering.
So do we make a decision on that tonight, or do we wait?
No, because what you're going to decide is, when we talk about the warrant, eventually, whether you want an article on
What we're
there.
going to do on the fall town meeting and
Yeah.
then make a line.
So did we get this? Because I don't,
I think I forwarded it. Did I? Did you get this?
You know what?
I was away, and it came in on a
No.
Friday.
Because I got the tennis court thingy,
No,
not.
but that's separate.
Exactly, that's why I'm saying no.
So
think I saw it.
if I did not forward that, I was probably on an airplane or something. I will send you a copy of it so you have it tomorrow.
thank you.
That was separate from the other Weston and Sampson.
Yes,
Yeah.
which we will talk about
I
as well.
didn't see that.
But just, I'm sorry to ask one more question about that. Right now, there's no imperative from the DEP, or, because we don't know what it is, so there's no imperative to get that within a certain time.
It's literally a sleeper. There's not even anyone at the DEP that's currently locked onto that.
Okay, great, thank you.
The only thing that I did comment for myself was just the fact that trying to find a way of getting this communicated so that we don't have these things that we have to mitigate years later instead of ahead of time. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, it just feels like these things come up and then they seem to be an issue, and that concerns me. So,
Well, probably when the pile was started, it wasn't an issue even at the DEP level. You know, just put your waste where you need to put it and figure out later. Use it on the landfill or whatever. You know, it's probably long enough ago that it wasn't, as critical as it is now.
I don't know about that, but, I mean, that's like something we look at every time we go to the dump, right? But you don't see it, right? You
Right.
just think, oh, there's a
It's
hill
covered
there.
with
It's a hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a drumlin.
Okay, so I'll get that to you. Now, the proposal that you do have is the proposal for engineering for the possible conversion of the tennis courts to parking, and that would be maybe on a temporary basis. That will cost around $16,000. And again, it's not something that you have to say, oh, we want to enter into this contract tonight. It would be something where you would pose this to town meeting in the fall. They would do at least the first part of the work, come up with what the engineer's opinion of cost would be for the actual renovation work, and then that could go back to town meeting in the spring.
So this removal of that fencing would have to be done if the tennis courts were to be repaired and replaced, whatever, right?
And anyway, yeah, that
Yeah.
fencing is not going to make
So
it.
is the donated money being used for this? Because that's a portion of the project.
The donated money is all being used right now to develop the renovation plans.
Okay,
Whether or not the town meeting funds the renovation, we don't know.
yeah.
This is simply separate from all that. Do you want to prepare the area for vehicles to be able to go on it and park? Because you have a berm that has to come out, you have a fence that has to come out, and you have wetlands permitting that needs to be done if you're going to do this. And it appears that it would cost $16,000 just for the engineering. In the spring, once we have an opinion of cost, would the town meeting even want to come up with what's going to be, I'm sure, tens of thousands of dollars more to actually do the work?
Move it, yeah.
Yeah, there's some permitting here, and that's why it gets expensive.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can put it through.
You could decide whether you want to put it on the town meeting warrant or not, but you wanted information on what it would cost
Yeah,
just to do the design, and this is what we
Yeah.
have. And we're finally there, the preliminary list of town meeting topics. Now, this is the type of thing where I put it out in August, and you talk about it at every meeting until you sign the warrant, which is going to be either your first or second meeting in October, depending on timing and what's going on. Usually when we go for the first pass, I like to hear, like, are there any major things you see? We'll get to the fine tuning later, but if everybody has a few major comments, we can start shuffling things around so that when you get to the next meeting, especially if someone brings something up that's iffy and you all agree, "Yeah, that's, you know what, we don't want that," we can start, making that kind of progress. So I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want to go through each member.
Do we want to read them, or do we just want to see if anybody has comments? Because
You don't need to read all this, no, just, go where you have comments and there can be discussion about that.
so for me, let's see, you asked about the increase of the budget. So for me, I'm thinking the range, to be able to increase the range, if you feel that we need a higher range, or if we need a whole, I don't know what the current is, so I don't know.
A range with respect to what, though?
So the possible increase of maximum wage for the DPW super and increase
Oh.
the budget. So the maximum,
Yeah,
is
we
fine.
don't know what that will be yet, because
don't know.
we're working on the position description first.
Okay,
And we're waiting for the Board of Public Works to get back to us with their final comments so that the selectmen in their capacity as personnel board can finalize the position description. Then from there, we'll look at other similar scopes and determine what that reasonable pay range would be. But it is probably going to be higher than what is on there now. So that's kind of an item we need to carry, because if you're going to hire someone new, but you want to pay them more than what the maximum is right now, you have to make that change at the fall town meeting, because you're probably going to hire somebody shortly after the new year, and you won't have a chance to change it in May. It'll be too late.
Right.
so regarding the town, I'm down to the town-owned bridges, the 3 town-owned bridges.
Yes.
So did we get I'm trying to remember where we stand with these. I know that we've talked about them in the past.
And this is, which tier is it, just so I can direct?
It's fall town meeting, I'm sorry, look, it's like number 7.
Fifth one down or
Yeah,
something.
okay. Yeah, so there's something real interesting on this. When the legislators, our state legislators, were looking at getting potential earmarks in the state budget, one of the things that I brought up was this. And in fact, my understanding is there will be $60,000 in an earmark, not to do the whole study, but to do the first tasks of this study. So I'm thinking that this should be brought down to the annual town meeting, because you're going to need to spend the $60,000 wisely to understand what you're going to need beyond that. Does that make sense, to bring it down to fall town meeting?
And these are,
Annual town meeting?
this is the bridge to the transfer station, Apple Street
And Pond Street.
and Pond Street. And we don't have to do all 3. We don't have to study all 3 at once. We can
The-
prioritize.
The Board of Public Works is looking to study all 3, but
Okay.
yeah, you could say, well, we know this one's the worst,
Yeah.
so we're going to put all 60 into that or whatever, but there's $60,000 that will be announced to us probably within the next couple months. Yes?
So I guess my question on a lot of these is that there should be another board that's bringing those forward to us. So
They
can you
have.
just tell me the order of operations in terms of,
So the things that you see here,
Yeah.
likely someone did bring it forward, but it didn't get picked up at a previous time for funding or for engagement on a warrant. In fact, the 3 major town bridges was something that was in the capital plan from the Board of Public Works for the annual town meeting, but we didn't have the means to fund it, so it got carried to the fall town meeting.
Probably 2
So a
years.
lot of these things have been brought up by the boards that should be discussing them.
oh, okay, because that's, I mean, I'm looking at a lot of these thinking, okay, well, I'd like to know what they're asking for. So there are a number of like DPW or BPW related. Do we have text that kind of makes the argument for or against, that's just historical, that lives somewhere that I can look at? I don't want to recreate the wheel on all this stuff.
When I first got on. It's very difficult to try and make a decision whether it needs to be done now or later.
Yeah.
If you send me a list of the ones that you have questions on, I will connect you with the resource that will help you get the information.
Is it, so I had a bunch of notes, and of course, the comments, my word crashed. So can I just give you a notation of this stuff?
Yeah, and then I'll pull out
You could write it on a piece of paper, and I'm sure he'd,
whatever you want, and I'll pull out resources so that you can have more background.
Great, thank you, I appreciate it.
other than that, like, I basically, the DPW yard, my note was stop kicking the can, let's get this done with.
Right, and of course, you know, I had this on the list as remove unsuitable soil. This really should be, and I'll change it, to do the engineering.
Okay.
And then the remove will
Be
be,
enough further.
right, will be
Back.
annual.
Right. So I think the tanker truck, it looks like no grant,
It's not looking good, no.
so,
How much is that? 40?
what did he say, 16?
600,000, I think.
600?
16 to 40? Oh, you don't know, he doesn't.
600,000, I'm just saying, I don't make the numbers, I'm just.
It's about 600,000, right? Yeah,
I would say that's a safe number.
That's why it would be helpful to have that list of the funds, just so we know kind of like where we are with this stuff.
So then I see the police vehicle, I know that Tom's going to be working with the FinCom on that to see whether or not it's necessity at
Right.
this time.
yeah.
Capital improvements at the Grove, so who would that be you, Brendan, that would look down, go over and take a review and decide whether you need to bring somebody else along to figure out what type of capital needs to be done?
Yeah, so I've basically, for the last 25 years, anything to do with the Grove, I would bring concerns or needs to the selectmen. In this case, we're talking about the cottage area. The question was raised in the past. We know that we're going to get an improvement for heating and cooling there. There has been some paint work and some spruce up work. The place has a new roof. This came from a time when we were going to go for a grant, which the plug got pulled on. The Economic Development Committee was looking at some things that would help make that more rentable. So it's a question, you know, is there a piece that would help move that along? And the Economic Development Committee, you know, may make more recommendations there, but it's on there just so that we don't lose it in the shuffle.
And
So, you know, I know we've been talking about the fact that we're going to be hiring a new director of the Public Works. And I know that you had wanted, I think in your edits that you had presented, it was that this person really does own the facilities that are owned by the town. It owns in terms of,
I think that
Manages.
should be the case, yeah.
so, you know, I would love to see kind of an assessment of all of our buildings and kind of like what improvements, because if it came down to something that would that needed to happen here rather than the Grove, I'd like to see what the roadmap is for facilities.
Fortunately, we don't anticipate any major capital renovations except for the school.
Mm-hmm.
All the other buildings are very new in terms of Essex. They're very, very new.
Yeah.
And what we're talking there is, what are the major maintenance activities that should come up in the next so many years?
Yeah, and I would like for the new person who's coming on board to kind of have that responsibility to do an assessment of the buildings, because they hopefully will have more experience and more knowledge of this stuff.
Right.
And when,
but it may be something that you hire, just
so
like.
I'm not saying, yeah,
You know, if I was to sell my house, I would hire somebody to come and give me, so I'm aware of all the problems if I was to.
Well,
so
I'll take that down as a note, because as you know, we're bringing the position description back.
yeah,
And if that makes it in there, that's what that person, they could at least give you the first order of magnitude.
Yeah.
If they have to work with a specialist, okay, maybe, but,
yeah. Because then we can prioritize.
yep.
And we don't, you know, the school district, I think, used to try to do, what, 60,000 a year in like small cap stuff. I don't know what we have budgeted for small cap. But
We have the various stabilization funds.
Yep,
And so Town Hall has one, the Public Safety Building has one, we have vehicles, a number of different things. And so that had been our approach, so that if, okay, this place needs to be restained on the outside, the money's already there because we've been putting it away in a steady process. Anything else right now on this?
No, what I did want to just give housekeeping to Annie, and normally what happens is we'll get this again next time.
Yep.
He'll bold the areas that he changed so that you'll be aware of what changed, just so.
Is there anything on here in any place that anyone says, you know what, I don't really want to see this go forward, I'd rather see it at the annual? Is any of that, or?
No, I mean, the only
Not
thing.
really.
Oh,
I would, I'm looking down now at the long-range potential items.
Yep.
And wondering, how we elevate those, or at least assess them, so we know whether to take them off, because, they're good. The special legislation to cap property taxes, the 2 stabilization funds for water and sewer enterprise, funding for accounting system licenses, so on and so forth, the Apple Street Loop. All those things are important, but it seems like when they get on this list, they're on the list, and kind of why I asked the question about the Finance Committee, because they might have some good thoughts as to, we should never do this because we're not in a position to do it now or 20 years from now. Just to look at these and see, it's almost like, it's the graveyard for, potential articles. And a lot of them are really good, it's just they're expensive.
Well, certainly, they've indicated they're going to take that up at a future meeting. I'll underscore with the chair, she's hearing me right now, that, it would be great to hear about everything on the list, including the long-range stuff.
Yeah.
so can I make a note on that? Because the Board of Selectmen, they're an advisory board to the Board of Selectmen. I would like us to say, these are what we think are our priorities first, before,
I think we have, by putting them on the list.
we've had, I've been here for one conversation about this, so, and I don't think it's been thorough, but,
In this list is the same list I had a year ago.
Yep.
He just moves them up and down.
Yep.
Depending on where we are at it.
and some of these are off, like some of these are done, right?
Nope.
What's done? I don't think so.
Stuff that we already decided, I think, didn't we already decide about the, the amendment to advertise revolving funds or something like that? Was that a planning board thing that came up?
As far as like the mail, like the fund for the mail?
Was it notifications
Wait,
thing?
is that not taken off? Where do you see that?
Does possibly amend the advertising revolving funds to include other application-related needs? Thought that was something
So
that.
is it
Oh,
un-
yeah, so what has come up is that it's one thing to, right now, we have the funds so that advertising money comes in and goes out to pay the newspaper.
Yeah,
But then what has come up after the fact is that why not do the same thing with postage so that you can collect the money from the applicant and then actually pay the postage, as opposed to always trying to understand what the fee for the application should be. Instead, just change it into actual costs incurred.
yeah,
So that came up after that. It
Okay.
was brought up.
okay.
It doesn't mean it has to stay on tier 1, but it's a slightly different flavor.
Just one other thing that came up at the Finance Committee meeting was this discussion about the there's 9 million in reserves, and that only $1 million of it is spendable. But that 8 million that is in different envelopes or whatever accounts is money that was garnered through taxation. And so that's money that the town sits on that is not available to residents for their own spending. So you got it through taxation, you're holding on to it at a certain interest rate. So there is another way of looking at that. It's not just about being able to save, but it's also about how much of taxpayer dollars should be squirreled away And believe me, I'm not a
Right,
conservative.
and that's
I
emerged,
think that that's a philosophy.
right, that's
that-
emerged over time
Yeah,
with various boards of selectmen and various finance committees, and those decisions were made by town meeting.
Yep.
Could it be looked at differently? Yes, as long as there's political will to do so, yes.
But I think that if and I keep hearing certain groups, and yourself and others, saying the 8 million, but it's buckets that are for different things and cannot be used for something in your mind. You think, we got 8 million. No, we don't.
but you do have 8 million.
But you're talking about a total that can't be used for just anything. So that's where,
Totally understand that.
Right.
I understand that, but remember that it's $8 million of taxpayer dollars that sits there when it's not working for the people who actually paid their tax dollars. And I cannot believe I am saying that.
But it's not all of it, right? So the sale of real estate fund came from
Yep.
selling,
Yep.
and the sewer interest surplus. So it's not all
I
tax
get
money,
it,
but
you
a lot of it
understand-
is, yeah.
You understand that there's a different way of looking at it, and I think that we can't ignore that because people do ask those questions and do make those remarks. So,
and I think once we have that list that it shows exactly
Yep.
what's in it
The update.
and what it can be used for, that will be a huge thing. But
Right.
keep saying 8 million. I could say I'm worth 10 million. I'm really not.
pardon?
I said I could say I'm worth 10 million, but I'm really not. So you have to make sure, you can't say you have 8 million if 5 million is for a capital thing, or just for sewer, or
Yep.
just for, but anything else on this?
I want to mention, since this list was created, the town clerk came to me, and it will show up on your next one. There's been changes to state law regarding kennels, and so our bylaw may need to be updated in order to incorporate the proper references and the proper correspondence with that change in state law. It's more of a housekeeping thing, but it's tier one because you're going to have to do it.
Right.
So let me make some of the changes we talked about tonight, and then you'll see it again at the next meeting. The next matter has to do with equity rules for when an applicant in the marijuana industry is coming to town to try to obtain a license. The Cannabis Control Commission put out regulations that say that each community is supposed to have such rules. I've spoken with town council, and they've verified that it does not have to be by bylaw, which means it's not a town meeting thing, it's just a policy of the board. My hope would be to bring a recommendation to the selectmen at your next meeting so that we could arrive at a final and then send it in. It's basically going to be town council determining the minimum things that need to be in the policy to pass muster with the CCC, and then getting that into them.
And that's probably been done by other towns.
It has
so you can
been, yeah.
just-
And there's even a model
Yeah,
policy out there.
yeah.
So I don't know if you had comments or questions about that, but it's something that's got to be done.
So it's not like putting this into law, or, I feel like, so, I feel like, in my mind, marijuana is still a drug. And I don't want the town to, if it's just about how we review the applicants, then I'm okay.
That's what it is.
Okay.
And it needs to be done, or there's a possibility that they could fine you for not having it. So we'll get something done.
Yeah.
I have two questions. Do we have a number of licenses like we do with liquor licenses?
Currently, there's only 2. Okay, they're in the same facility, one for grow and one for sale.
Okay,
That's what we have.
But we have a bylaw that actually has limitations on the numbers of each type of license that can be issued.
Now,
Okay,
is
so
that
there-
our bylaw?
That's our
town?
local bylaw,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah,
So there
and what
is-
is the number? It was
Uh,
2, I think.
No.
3?
If I can find my phone.
and you don't have to have an answer tonight, but that's just a
Yeah,
question.
so I'll send you that.
And then, do social equity requirements apply to other types of licenses that the town, or permits? I thought this was interesting.
Not that I know of.
Okay. I mean, do we ever review to make sure that we are that we do have equity, you know, I know,
There's no framework at the state level to have authority to do that. So if somebody wants license X, they can come ask for it, and they're on the same footing as anyone else. With respect to the marijuana industry, there is a much more measured process that they want you to go through,
Yeah.
but it's authorized by state law or by regulation of the state.
okay, thank you.
The James Pub, I mentioned earlier that there are 2 licenses in place right now. One for allowing the town to have the public go back and forth from the municipal stairway, and another for the establishment to have a small amount of land for parking and actually a dumpster as well. And so I've already sent that off to the new owners. They're interested in renewing, I just don't have it back yet. I would recommend that the board vote to sign that outside of a meeting as soon as we have the documents, because it's a document that has been in place for many years.
Why is it only 2 years?
Because it's a license, it's not a perpetual right, and it's not an exclusive right. When you do a license, it's fleeting and temporary. If you did a lease, town meeting would have to vote on it, and you could do something more durable.
Okay.
And we do have that. There was a lease voted for the Shays property, if you remember, at town meeting, a renewal of a lease, 10 more years, and there's a lease for the town's property at 28 Main Street, which is the Shipbuilding Museum.
Okay,
So it can be done by lease, but in situations like this where you might have change in ownership or change in operations, it's better and easier to do it by license.
okay.
So we're going to take a motion. Can I do them both at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to take a motion for a license agreement for the property adjacent to Bar Mar Hospitality and town property, known as the James. And it is for the walkways from the stairs and for the parcel land that parking and
And dumpster.
dumpster is located.
To be signed once available outside of a meeting.
To
So
be signed.
moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
The regional school apportionment legislative bill, as discussed earlier, I did get a response from Senator Tarr's legislative aide, who said that passage in its current form is not likely, but there is no downside to supporting it.
So if we want to support it, I make a motion to support it?
Did he say, he didn't in that email you received, but I'm wondering how many districts across the state are
I
supporting?
think there's only one legislator that has brought this up, and there's no one else signed on.
Okay,
And so, to answer your question, if you wanted to support it, you could take a vote of support, and then I could get that to our representative and our senator for just consideration.
Can I make the motion, because I just have a couple of notes that I wanted to add, or just can I add them to whatever we decide to do? Support the study only for regional apportionment best practices, something like that. It was more, that was the conversation that I heard at the FinCom, and that we're, with a caveat that we're not in support of a state mandate on apportionment,
Yeah.
but really guidance. And so that's that, but I'd also just, do you remember a few years ago, Suzanne Bump, who was the auditor, did that really great regionalization transportation study? And I'm wondering, you know, if this doesn't go anywhere, is that something, and I don't even know, how would you bring that up to the auditor's office to kind of do that sort of work? Because I thought that was a really great effort, and
I can ask.
yeah,
I
mean,
know
think
who
it
to
gave a
ask.
lot of good information to legislators, so, I mean, I'm just wondering if that's a Plan B.
And my question has always been, okay, so if they're asking us to support it, has any other regional schools already supported it? Because, I mean, we can support it, but if it's two of us,
Yeah.
where's it gonna go?
well, that's why I was asking, because I thought what Harak sent back was that in his district, in Senator Tarr's district, there's only, nobody supporting it but us thinking about it. I didn't
This,
know whether it was
but the actual
statewide or not.
proponent,
They didn't send this to Manchester because Sarah, Mellish, and Ann had not seen this, which I don't like. You know, if you're going to send it to everybody.
Right. But I mean, we can support.
at
we
this
can-
time, I'm the only one who has given testimony to the committee, and Senator Paul Mark is the only legislator to sponsor this bill.
Okay,
That's from the proponent.
okay.
So, go ahead, is it you want?
Okay, if you want to make the motion, go ahead, Ann.
Sure, but you got those two notes?
I got it,
I'm
yeah.
assuming that you'll communicate, right?
Yes, so yeah, I have it down, so if that's the motion, it can be seconded and voted on.
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Also, can we just make the school committee and the town of Manchester aware of this, what you're going to send? Because I think that's
Yeah.
just being courteous. Thank you.
The board may recall that we have been involved with the national opioid settlement. There were a variety of opioid producers that were in the first round of settlements, and we're benefiting from those settlements as time goes on. Just flip to that. Through fiscal year 2039, we expect to get about $43,000 in total. We've got about $13,000 so far. And that was for producers such as Janssen, Allergen, Teva, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart. The new round of settlements, there was actually a couple. The one that's in front of you right now that you could sign on to is Purdue Pharma, but there will be other ones coming our way: Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Hikma, Indivior, Mylan, Sun, and Zydus. I would say that since we were already involved in the settlements before and things have gone well, that the board may want to authorize the chairman to sign additional settlements as they come online. I don't see a downside to it.
No, I think it's great for these companies to pay the public for their
What did we use it for, Narcan and that sort of stuff?
It has to be used for things related to drug
Overdose
awareness
stuff, yeah.
or prevention, that type of thing.
You can't use any of it for,
The tennis courts, no.
pardon?
I said the tennis courts, no.
No, for public safety or, you know, if
You-
medical response, some
Yes,
things.
as long as it's related in some way.
And as far as the money we have received so far, did we have to show that the town was affected?
No,
by-
it's a
we didn't?
formula.
Okay, wow.
And then this area has been very severely affected by
Yeah.
this.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion for the board to give the chair permission to sign privileges for the opioid settlement notice for Purdue, reference number CL-1749063.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And what about future ones? You want to just do Purdue Pharma, or do you want to just, as they come?
Any and all.
Any and
Yeah.
all.
All
Do we
right.
have to amend that, or are we, okay?
No, I've got it. Agreements, okay, then the Cape Ann Regional Emergency Planning Committee. This is a committee that exists now in a form that is recognized by the state as an official emergency planning committee. For about 15 years prior to this, we've had the Cape Ann Regional Emergency Planning Team, which was less about formalization and more about making sure that we all knew each other when something happened, and it wasn't, an event happens and nobody knows who's in place and how to communicate. Now that we've gone to this more formal level, one of the products that's coming forward is a regional shelter that could be stood up at Gordon College. Gordon College has been very receptive to this. Prior to this, the group was trying to get a regional shelter at the O'Malley School, but it fell apart. It never went anywhere. In order to get this off the ground, the planning team is going to want each participating community, which now includes Ipswich and maybe some other communities beyond Cape Ann, to sign the memorandum of understanding that will say, you know, if we have to open up a regional shelter, these are the types of things that we will do. Now, I provided a copy of that to you, but as you know, it's very complicated. So I've reached out to fire, police, and Board of Health to get comments, and I've explained to the planning committee that it will take the town a little while to digest it, as it will be in all the communities. I don't know whether the Board of Selectmen itself is ever going to have specific technical comments. I think it's better for you to hear the departments reviewed it, and they either did or they didn't have these concerns, and go from there. But
My only concern is, there's a lot of communities. If anything did happen, even just for Cape Ann, whether it be major outage, whether it be a major storm, I don't know, Gordon College couldn't handle all of us, could they?
No.
I mean,
But
No.
here's the
it's
question.
a limitation on the
So Gordon needs to retrofit or do something, buy something.
It would be the
Who
Bennett,
funds
it would be the Bennett Center, and they will already know how many square feet they have, because that translates to how many people they can bring in.
And who's-
It's not a panacea, but it's somewhere, we don't have any regional shelter right now.
Yeah.
This would be a chance to have a regional shelter, regardless of whether it gets oversubscribed.
So to retrofit or upgrade or buy equipment, whatever needs to happen at Gordon, is that FEMA money or is that the
Yeah, so
town's paying in?
we expect to go, the planning committee expects to go for grants
From FEMA, good luck.
from FEMA and from NERAC, which is the state agency that does emergency planning, so that we can collect these things, possibly keep them in trailers at some central site, and when you have to stand up the shelter, everything gets brought there and and we're talking about, in other things that I wrote about this, a tabletop exercise on standing up the shelter, and eventually maybe even walk through. Okay, here we go, and here comes the trailers, and here goes the beds, and all of that. So we're looking at setting up a shelter, but then following that up with, can we actually make it work, and have we tested it? Which, again, has never been a feature of this area, nothing available to us. And it will be a Red Cross shelter from what I understand, so we will have a lot of guidance.
Good.
So I have a question for you. I thought when we did Memorial School, we did do something, like, I think the inspection might have been, like, didn't the fire chief look at that building for, like, tell me the phases. Like, is there one that's immediate for Essex, and then if Essex is wiped out?
Yeah,
then
Essex
you-
Elementary School, because
Right.
they have a generator and a cafeteria, yes.
Right, okay, so we did do that for
Yeah.
Memorial School too.
Yeah.
So
Right.
is this part of the scope of work for the EES building? Because I don't know that it is, so I should ask that.
well, it would still be, the EES building would be a town shelter if needed.
But
We
how's
would-
the phasing go there?
We would hopefully get that.
Yeah.
How's the phasing go? Well, if it's a smaller event, well, if it's a really minor event, we might be talking about heating and cooling shelters
Yeah.
in existing town buildings.
Yeah.
If people have to be displaced and there's only a few, then we're talking about the school. If it's a much more widespread thing, like the gas explosion or a hurricane, right? And people have to have places, you know, even then, we're going to be saying, can you stay with a friend? Can you stay with a relative? No one really wants to go to these places.
So this is like real severe.
This is really bad, yeah.
Big issues.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a couple of other questions. Do we have evacuation routes? Because I don't notice any signs, but when I was in Maine, I noticed that there are evacuation route signs everywhere, so I'm kind of directing this at you guys too. Are there evacuation routes, and I'm glad you're asking them to give us feedback,
Yeah,
because,
we don't have any signed evacuation routes.
is that necessary?
It's not necessary because you're going to go Southern Avenue You're not going to probably go back up, go down the coast to Gloucester, because if it's a coastal event, or you're going to go Western Avenue, and you're going to hit 128 one way or the other, even if it's by Essex Avenue, and go south.
Okay.
And then the final piece is that at this meeting, they brought up an opportunity where Congressman Moulton wants to do an emergency management press conference and make some remarks. They said at the meeting that he either wanted to go to Beverly or Essex, and I'm like, okay, Beverly's not in the room. I think we'll try Essex. And in fact, they like the idea of hitting Essex, and they want to go to Canomo Point. It's been set up for August 25th at 10:30 at the small park out there. And if it's raining, we have secured the use of the Canomo Point Association, whatever it's called, clubhouse or function house. And so there will be about a 40-minute session of remarks, and then there will be a walk over to the town's seawall that got funded with state money, actually, so we can talk about some of the things that are important to coastal communities. So that's been set up and is in the works.
So can you send us a meeting invite on that one?
I think you did.
Can you do meeting invites? No, like, no,
I
I'm
can
talking
do
about-
it.
You can?
You mean an electronic one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just it
I'll send
helps.
you one.
Yeah, and then, is there anything that, in terms of what, what you want us,
Because you're not going to be there, is that what I read?
I'll be there.
Oh, you will be there, okay,
Yeah.
I thought you said you weren't.
is there anything that you specifically want this board to talk to him about, and should we keep any commentary we have about any of the other things that he does to ourselves for that meeting?
You may want to get his ear about a few things after the active press conference, yeah.
Okay. But not the personal things we have? Okay. Just wondered if you want to, give us some talking points or
The
things that we should.
The fire chief is going to be there because he's the emergency management director for Essex, to give a general discussion about the Cape Ann Emergency Planning Committee, because that's what kind of drew this thing in. And then he'll make a few remarks about important things in Essex, but it's really a general discussion about emergency planning,
Okay.
because all of the other communities are invited to this in the press, and it's, kind of a big deal.
Thank you.
And that's, oh, go ahead.
As far as it being at Gordon College, I mean, is it just for them to be able to put up a tent or put up, they have
No,
a
it would be in the
building?
Bennett Center.
And so would this give them funds to do repairs or updates or something? Like,
Well,
I'm trying.
it's in its infancy.
Okay,
And right now, we're going to look at, can we get the things that we need to put in a shelter? Can we get trailers to house these things?
Yep.
Can we park these somewhere? Then we go into, okay, we're going to exercise this. Here's a tabletop. Here's an actual walkthrough. And when we do the walkthrough, oh, well, you know what? We better modify this and that because it's not going to work. And the hope is that if we ever have to use it, it'll be a well-thought, exercised thing. But
And
it's
my
a
only thought was,
stepwise
how
progression.
long? I mean, if we're going to have anything, is it an agreement that's for 10 years? Is it you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's a living document. I don't think it's 10 years. You'll see. It'll be in bits and pieces.
all right, so as far as just, do we need to post a meeting for that? Or is it
No.
because we're invited?
It's a site, no, you don't.
All right. Is that the end?
That's the beginning of the end, yeah.
No. Okay, so we're at that point. Before I ask for public comment, is there any comments the board wanted to make?
We didn't do minutes or,
Yeah, we still have,
No, we got other business, but remember
Oh,
you
okay.
asked me to move the public comment?
oh, I'm sorry.
So if the board doesn't have any comments, then let me open the floor to the public comments. Does anybody in the room have any comments? Going one, up?
I'll just say, real quick on the sheltering piece, just to give some perspective. It's another tool in the toolbox. So when we look at challenges locally here in Essex, if we're inundated here, it provides an avenue to get people out of town and potentially away from flooding or whatever the case may be. So it's not a one size fits all. It's just another tool in the toolbox, and that's kind of how it should be viewed. We obviously have capabilities here, and then, you know, as the scope expands or needs change, it allows us to flex into different areas. And one of the keys with that is also staffing. So we're not staffing that. If it's an ongoing sheltering operation, you're talking 24/7, and that's a lot. So just kind of think of it that way.
And so if we were to use Essex as a shelter, say, as a smaller issue, do we have the ability to get things like cots and stuff to bring there?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Did you have a question? Okay. Thank you. And online, I see one person is still online. Does online have any comments, questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, so moving on to other business. We're going to start with, make a motion for the weekly warrant in the amount of $277,186,040.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approve the, making a motion to approve the minutes from the Selectmen's meeting on July 21st, 2025, open session, open meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. That's the one I missed, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And discuss an increase to trash removal from the public trash receptacles at Canomo Point, which is potentially generated from households.
So the superintendent of public works contacted me and indicated that they have noticed an uptick in the number of times that they have to go out and empty the trash receptacles at Canomo Point. 2 times a week was working, but now it's more like 3 times a week. And it doesn't look like just incidental trash from a car or from a picnic. It looks like it's coming from household uses. Now, I don't know that you're going to do anything about that except take the trash barrels away, right? I mean, no one's out there watching who's putting in what. He wanted it brought to the attention of the board, which I now have done.
Can they threaten to look at what, if the trash has an identification?
That's what he said would happen if it gets out of hand.
Yeah, we'll let that happen then.
Yeah.
Can we send notice to Canomo Point Association to remind them that those
Yes.
trash receptacles are for,
Sorry, keep going.
are for incidentals and not for, so I didn't want to put the barrels there at all, so that's why I'm kind of smiling inside like I told you so, but I'm not saying that. But I do think at least doing the association to let them know that we're seeing this and we may take further action.
And let them maybe self-police,
I know
watchdogs.
that there was a post on Facebook page, and I thought it was about Centennial Grove, about trash being blowing around.
Yes.
Yes.
And we've addressed that, and in fact, Alva sent me a picture of some of the things that were collected, and I addressed it with the YMCA, and they're going to do a better job of policing after every camp day.
Okay.
At the waterfront, at the picnic grove, at the field.
And is there any of this happening there as well?
We don't know of any.
I will say when I go out there, sometimes it's frequently and sometimes it's, I haven't been there in a couple of weeks. I don't see, they're very conscious about picking up trash around.
Oh, okay, so it's not like folks from town are
So one
using...
of the
We don't
reasons
see
they
it there.
ask for the barrels is that there's a group that always do their walk
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah.
And they wanted a place to throw it and not have to carry it home. And so that's why we put it in 2 different places, and now it looks like it's getting out of hand.
yeah, okay.
So as far as from us, do you need us to do anything other than what we've told you already?
No,
that we-
that's fine. I'll
Okay.
follow up on that.
Can I just make sure, we already discussed the topics of the
Yes.
recent visit to the town landing?
And I
Okay.
don't have any other items.
Okay, so we are going to move on to appointments. And I think there's just one group of appointments, correct? It's just the poll takers?
Yes.
And so I make a motion to approve the list of poll takers included in this record. for general election poll workers, September 1, 2025 through August 31st, 2026.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just to mention, I did check with Amy to say, well, there's a lot of people on this list. Did they all say they want to? And she did confirm to me that she had those that couldn't do the last election. She asked if they still wanted to be on the list, and they all did say yes, so. Okay, so we're going to move on to licensing. God. And one day, I did have, I don't want to do a consent agenda because I want to have us discuss the YMCA one because they're requesting a waiver. So I'm going to go down the list and just do a vote on it. One-day entertainment license, ratify the board's action taken on the 21st regarding.
No, that's,
We
we
that
did the
already,
first
sorry.
two, yeah.
So on this first one, this is for the Ipswich Family Y, for the Thursday, September 18th, between the hours of 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. for amplified acoustic background music at the Folsom Pavilion and at Centennial Grove for a fundraiser to benefit Essex children.
So you're going to do the waiver separately?
I want to ask you your opinion. I feel like by setting a waiver, because they say they're doing a fundraiser for Essex, they're doing a fundraiser for all of it. It's all of the Essex-wise camps. It's any needy person, needy
They
family.
do say specifically, though, $7,000 for Essex families.
I think we should waive it.
Agree.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving down to the one-day malt license, we've got the family Ipswich Y, sorry.
Do we want to do Greenbelt?
Pardon?
Greenbelt's at the bottom of that page. Under the Y.
And that's at,
There are other YMCA ones, but there's one in between here.
Okay, I don't have that. I do have, see the license here. Okay, so the Essex County, make a motion to accept the, approve the Essex County Greenbelt Association from 82 Essex Ave for the Saturday, September 20th, between the hours of 11:30 and 2:30. Amplified six-piece band featuring guitars, drums, keyboard, and singer under a 10 by 10 tent.
So moved.
second?
So this is Cox Reservation, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It should be just, look on your agenda under this
Oh,
list.
it is here,
Yeah.
sorry. Missed the dot. Okay, then moving down to the one-day wine and malt license, we have the YMCA for September 18th, we have the, at the Centennial Grove, we have the, what do we have, wine and malt?
Yeah, you did the entertainment. So at this event, they're going to have wine and malt, they're going to have entertainment, and they need the actual permission to use the grove.
Okay.
Three licenses, a fee waiver is being requested on all three.
Which we should waive the fee for all three.
I think we can do it this time, but I just don't agree. I just don't agree just because somebody says that it's for the Essex children, to waive the liquor, to waive the, I'm having a hard time with it. But the only reason I am possibly willing to do it is because it's only 2 hours. What the heck? It's 2 hours.
Okay.
3.
5:30 to 8:30.
5:30, 6:30, 7:30. Push her over the edge. 5:30
No,
to 6:30.
one of them goes to 7:30 and the
Oh.
other two go to 8:30.
I missed the 8:30 part, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do you want to, move us into executive session?
Yeah,
Or-
so-
Let's do the reminders then.
Yeah,
since we're
because I
not
don't
coming
think
back.
the board is going to reconvene.
Okay, so the next regular board meeting is the August 18th. We have the 25th for the Seth Moulton, Congressman Seth Moulton coming in. I did want to just make sure we all got our Action Inc. invitation.
Yes.
And now we'll move into executive session to discuss contract negotiation with the ASME, that's the AFSCME, for a successor collective bargaining agreement currently in.
And I'm going to recommend that the chairman declare that an open discussion of this matter would be detrimental to the town's bargaining position, and that the board invite the chair of the Finance Committee, who's part of the bargaining team, into the executive session, and that the board will not be reconvening this evening in open session.
All those in favor, roll call vote.
Peter Fippen, aye.
Cameron, yes.
Inga Harry, yes.